and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is a novelist, storyteller, producer, as well as futurist, no other than Mr. Lee Schneider.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
Welcome, Mr. Lee. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. Well, I have a long, tangled career in media making. I started as a writer for Good Morning America and wrote and produced TV news and documentaries and plays and short stories, many media. Even wrote a few novels early on that I didn't publish. But I've rolled around after doing documentaries, doing podcasts. I've tried a lot of things, even cartoons. I'm writing novels full time now and doing and teaching storytelling. So it's been kind of a wild, unpredictable journey, but it has brought me here with a lot of skills in visual storytelling, dialogue storytelling, and just the narrative form. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. I finished three novels in 3 years, 1,000 days of work. I don't know how many pages, probably close to 1,000 pages. I'm working on another trilogy now. I just have coming out in a couple of weeks. I don't know when this will air precisely, but I have the third and final novel in the Utopia Engine trilogy. It's called Liberation. It's a dystopian science fiction novel that I think is not sad. I think it's dystopian, but it doesn't, it leaves you with hope and solutions. At least that's my goal.
Mr. Lee Schneider, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books to come. And today, let's talk about what inspired the dystopian world Ali's character find themselves in. So tell us, what is what was the initial spark? A new headline, historical event, a philosophical question that grew into the foundation of this dystopian world.
For me, it was wildfires. I live in Southern California, and a few years ago, we had the first round of wildfires near here, not even directly in my neighborhood, but close enough to create smoke and enough smoke so I couldn't even go outside. And that changed things for me because I started to see firsthand that climate change was not abstract for me anymore. It was something that was literally in my backyard. Couldn't go out for a walk, couldn't go out for a run. So I started taking notes on that. That gave me what I like to call the motor to get this started. I also started thinking a lot, and this was back in 2020 or so, so about 5 years ago. Uh, I started thinking a lot about AI and the power of AI, how it would be used, who owns it, who would control it. So those ideas got put into the primordial soup of the first book. People controlling information, people controlling AI, what would they do with it? How would they attempt to control the climate or help the climate? And how the general, pardon the pun, but atmosphere of climate change would influence people and make them change their ways or not change their ways. One interesting thing for me, and I hope readers get into this, is it's a series of three books. The first is called Surrender, the next is called Resist, and the third is called Liberation. Liberation is out almost now. You can see I'm going for kind of a story arc there in the three books, but I'm trying to show in that big story arc that people learn, people change, people are confronted, even in my future world in 2050 and 2052 and 2053, even in my near future world, that there are challenges that people can rise to and the people must change to meet them. So it's kind of a big story, but that's my capsule summary of what got me started.
Interesting, Mr. Lee. Every great dystopia is built on amplified fear about your own society. What is the primary contemporary anxiety or trend that your world explores and exaggerates?
Yeah, that's very interesting because it's often been said that science fiction is not really about the future, it's about the past. And I'm really looking at control of information and technology, powerful technology, the likes of which we've never seen before, powerful technology held in just a few hands. The idea that there could be an open AI, a Claude AI, a Gemini, that's all those are very powerful platforms that are going to change the way we're living and already are changing the way we're living, but they're held in just a few hands. And we also, as the everyday folks, we didn't really get a choice about where these would all pop up. Here's a simple example. I use Microsoft Word for the final drafts of some things that I'm working on. And I had to work really hard to shut off Copilot, which is the AI chatbot, or whatever you'd like to call it, the AI agent in Microsoft Word. I didn't want it, but it was kind of forced on me. It was there, and I had to get rid of it. And I'm sure your listeners are seeing that everywhere you turn now, there's an AI something or other that's there. It could help us, it could be great, but are we being given the choice to use it or not? Kind of. We're kind of getting the choice to use it. And sometimes we have to work hard to turn it off if we don't want it. It's going to be increasingly harder, I think, to get a job, to find work, to just be in our highly tech mediated world without knowing how to use AI or being used by it. So that's kind of the big dystopian concept that drives all three books.
What was the pivotal event, decision, or technological breakthrough in your world's history that set on the path to its current state?
Well, you mean me? What set me on that path?
Yes,
Yeah,
the point of no return.
the point of no return. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's since I'm kind of talking about two things, the intersection of two things. For me, the definite point of no return was smoke from wildfires. We also there was a more recent wildfire and earlier this year, and we had to evacuate. We had to go somewhere where we could breathe. That definitely brought it home for me. I started working on kind of an abstract. I'm thinking about the impact of climate change for future generations. I have children, but this is here right now. And in a similar way, the use of artificial intelligence and advanced computing power and the intersection of technology with power, it's here right now, which kind of amazed me. I mean, I have this idea that I've been seeing that I can dream up some pretty crazy stuff. I can take things pretty far out in these fictional worldviews, but it's all coming true faster than I can write about it. The future is manifesting in the present before I can even dream up the most weird iterations of it. So that too, that's kind of sense of running to keep up with the future as it becomes the present very quickly. That's a big driver for me in writing this kind of literature.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Lee. On world building and society, what does the ruling power in your world promise its citizens? Safety, stability, happiness, to make the oppression seems like a fair trade.
That's a very good question. I like that question a lot. We are more than ever prone to surrender our creativity, our memories, kind of like what's going on in here inside between the two ears, two corporations. An example, quite benign, but nonetheless an example would be, say, Dropbox, Google Drive, iCloud. These are all kind of extra brains for us. We're more than willing to surrender our photos to iCloud. We're more than willing to upload a bunch of stuff to Dropbox and Google Drive and all the other platforms like that. For a while, I suppose it was pretty benign, right? You're just kind of getting extra storage. But in time, I've seen that these corporate interests now control our memories, basically. We they're making us pay to store our own memories and kind of selling them back to us. And when you add AI into the package there, they're using our memories, sometimes without permission, to train ever more sophisticated large language models. Now, that may sound like a lot of tech gobbledygook, but the main idea there is that we are surrendering our memories, our ideas, and allowing them to be used by corporations. And it sounds on the surface like a that's a pretty good deal, right? I mean, I don't have to remember anything anymore, or I don't have to find a place to store my vacation photos. They're right there on my phone. That part of it is fine. But the way these things are used becomes the bad part. That becomes the pernicious part. When you write a book or write an article or put anything up on the internet right now, you're essentially training somebody's AI. Some people think that's terrific. They're more than willing to help those AIs get smarter. But for me, as someone who makes a living with words and ideas and concepts, I don't like giving that up for nothing, and I don't like losing control of it. So I think that's the balance. The way your question was framed was very interesting. What makes this seem okay? Well, it seems okay to get some help with all my memories, but it's not okay if those memories are used in ways that don't square with what I want them to be used for. They're used in ways I haven't given consent for the ways that they've been used. I'll give one more example. Some people use DocuSign, right? It's for when you buy a house or when you sign a contract, it's an online thing to sign up. DocuSign got itself in a little bit of trouble recently when they said, well, we're going to be using all your documents to build our AI. It's going to be really convenient for you. You'll be able to have pre written contracts. And a lot of people said, just a moment, those are personal, those are private. You can't do that. And to my knowledge, DocuSign backed down and they're not doing that. But that's not what's happening with all the meta properties, with LinkedIn, with YouTube. List almost anything that's online. Your memories are being used to their benefit.
Interesting benefit, Mr. Lee. And how does the society maintain control? Is it through surveillance, propaganda, fear, drag, or a more subtle psychological method?
Not a drug in this case, but the other three, yes. Uh, Surveillance is a pretty important way to keep control over people. There, in these three novels, there are a lot of cameras. In the final novel of the trilogy, the characters do a lot to get away from the cameras. They invent devices that fuzz up the camera. They find ways to get outside the eye of the camera, so to speak. So corporate surveillance generally is a way to control people. Your private life becomes very public and put out there for analysis. Uh, People also are willing to give up a lot of privacy. And when we do that, some people say, well, I have nothing to hide. I don't really care if people know everything about me. But some of us in a more authoritarian environment, it may matter what the powers that be know about you. So that too becomes an instrument of control. We live in a time, thanks to a marvelous technology for the most part. Technology is pretty amazing. I'm not against technology, but I have seen that we live in a time when technology is really being used as an instrument of control because it's inescapable. It's not like you can say, I'm going to take my horse and buggy to work. And it's not like you can say, I renounce all computers. I don't want to do this anymore. That would be, you could do it, but it would be pretty hard to live. It reminds me of the time where I got sick of typing on computers and I bought myself an old manual typewriter, just no electricity, put it on the kitchen table, and I started writing on it. And after about a day, I thought, this is totally crazy. How in the world did people do this? How did they type on these pieces of paper and then rearrange and rewrite the words and then retype it over and over again? It seemed crazy to me. So then I went back, of course, to computers, which I still use today. So this trade off of convenience, uh, information flow, access to the global internet, there's a lot of trade offs there that I want people to think about when they read the books.
Mr. Lee is a novelist, storyteller, producer, a futurist. What are your short term and long term goals?
Well, it's always for me when I'm working on a book, I want to write about 600 to 750 words per day. That's kind of like my thing. And that's my short term goal. The reason I pick that number is it's an achievable number and I can stop when I get to that number. A short term goal for me is really to get started writing every morning, but also to stop writing, to stop myself from writing and not write all night. Before I had kids, when I was a young man, I pretty much reversed the diurnal cycle. I worked all night and slept for part of the day. I worked in restaurants. I was a cook for a while, a foot messenger, things you could do, sliding the hours around. I can't really do that anymore. I'm responsible to other people. I have to be awake during the daytime. So the short term goal is really writing a good quota every day so I can pace myself and not do too much, not do too little. And by the way, I don't punish myself when I can't do the 600 or 750 words. It's fine. That's okay. I just try to move on. The long term goal is teaching storytelling. I'm working on another trilogy series, which is exciting to me, and I'll always be doing that. But I also teach storytelling to startup founders, to change makers, and to architects. And the idea of helping more people tell a story well for whatever purpose, whether it's a talk you're giving, whether it's a presentation, whether it's a website, the art of storytelling, I think, is very powerful. And I love doing that. And I teach for USC and teach a storytelling media making class for them that I've taught for the past 10 years. So the long term goal definitely has a lot to do with helping people tell stories.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Lee, and looking forward for more success. And can you give a piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
I love that. That's funny. Uh, well, maybe that piece of advice is that we're all profoundly individual. Any advice that particularly you give in the creative realm may only be good for you. A lot of people, for example, say, get started early, start every morning, get up at 6 in the morning, get up at 5 in the morning, write an hour before you go to work, and write every day. And I tried that and it was pretty miserable. I'm not a morning person. I have a lot of trouble waking up in the morning, even if I go to bed early. For me, my optimum time for writing is about noon. It takes me, I usually meditate and do yoga in the morning. I can, if I get up at 7 or even earlier, if the cat meows and wakes me up, I may be spending 2 or 3 hours kind of getting ready, kind of prepping. So I would say you really have to find not only your muse and not only build your material, but you have to find really what works for you and not apologize for it. Some people are night owls, some people are larks, some people like to use computers, some people dictate, some people like to talk on the phone walking around, some people like to go to the same place to work every day. I don't. I work at different places around the home office because I like the change. I like to get up and move. I use Pomodoro timers, which are those 25-minute timers, and I'll work for 25 minutes, take a break, walk around, work for another 25 minutes. I get a lot done that way. Others, they are head down, work for 4 hours, no questions asked, and then quit. So I would say discover your workflow, discover your creative workflow, not only what you need to build what you're doing, whatever it may be, but how you're going to do it, and recognize that it's going to be different for every person.
Mr. Lee, thank you so much for that inspiring advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, sure. Well, I love Ursula Le Guin. Practically anything she's written, The Left Hand of Darkness is pretty brilliant. The Lathe of Heaven is pretty amazing and kind of mind blowing. I really enjoy the work of Robin Sloan. He's a Bay Area, California science fiction fantasy writer. His books, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, Sourdough, and uh, um, Moonbound, all just take a very positive, unusual, surprising view of present and future worlds, and there's always something unexpected in his work. I'm enjoying also some of the work of Aya de Leon, who has written. I'm reading one of her books for kids called Undercover Latina, which is about a intelligence gathering agency for people of color. It's really wonderful, and her other books, I'm blanking on one of the titles now, but I've really enjoyed some of her other books. So that's kind of what's on my reading stack now. I'm always about 10 books deep in the reading stack because, to be a writer, you got to be a reader, and it all connects for me.
Thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Lee. And tell us, why do you hope readers will recognize about their own world or themselves after spending time in this fictional one?
Another good question. You're on a roll. These are very good. Uh, I want people to see that the problems that we're going to face in the future, in the near future, even the distant future, are going to challenge those characters. And we've evolved quite a bit. And since technology is advancing, people are probably going to evolve quite a bit faster. But the ability to meet those problems, adapt, solve, get rid of them, do whatever we do, that learning experience, that's invaluable. And that's basically what in this trilogy, these three books are about. It's people meeting sometimes bizarre challenges, things that are very strange to us now, but the human solution is going to be something we may recognize, that as humans, to be problem solvers, whether we're solving issues with climate, solving issues with technology, or just dealing with a weird new world, we can solve those problems. We can be open to solutions for them. And that's really what I want people to take away.
Yes, and Mr. Lee, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in each first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Mr. Lee, without giving away spoilers, does the world have the capacity to change, or it's destined to remain static? Is it the story about escaping it, destroying it, or simply surviving within it?
It's about changing it. There's a survival aspect uh, to all three books, definitely, but it's about meeting the issues head on that the plot of the books can brings to people and changing the world. It's not so much that we adapt and we hunker down. It's more like we start to see solutions, different ways of living, adapting our ways to technology, but also adapting technology to us. And by the way, I don't know when you sleep because that is the biggest list of podcasts I've ever seen. So kudos to you. Pretty good.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lee. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to upcoming book, your advocacy, or any projects that you're doing right now?
Sure, Liberation is the next book out, and you'll be able to learn more about that in my other books at leeschneiderbooks.com. It's my website. And I'm also on Instagram at Lee Schneider Books. And that's where I post all the new news.
New news. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Lee Schneider because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Lee, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks so much. It was really a pleasure to speak with you today.
More to come, people. See you soon.